Hello and welcome to Bari Aftercare, the podcast. I'm so excited tonight because I am talking about a topic that has been a pet peeve of mine for quite some time. And the reason it's a pet peeve is because people use the word incorrectly, not because of any intention, but I think because of miseducation. So tonight, I'm clearing up the mystery behind body dysmorphic disorder. Yes, BDD, body dysmorphic disorder. I think that in the world of bariatrics, a lot of people think that they have body dysmorphic disorder. Why do I think that? Because I hear it all the time. I hear it at conferences, I hear it online, I hear it in support groups, and it's frustrating me because I think people are uneducated about what body dysmorphic disorder really is. So we're going to clarify that. We're going to talk about the differences between body dysmorphic disorder and negative body image or a distorted body image, which I think is what people are getting at when they say they have body dysmorphic disorder. But I want to clarify this because it's not good to spread incorrect information throughout the population. And sadly, a lot of medical professionals are also using these words interchangeably and incorrectly. So we're going to talk about what is body dysmorphic disorder and how are body dysmorphic disorder and body image issues similar and what makes them different. And the difference is vast. And I think you're going to catch on pretty quickly and understand that probably very few people, in fact, very few people are diagnosed with body dysmorphic disorder. Very small, as in 1% to 2% of the population. And we have a lot of people, a large percent of the bariatric population running around saying they have body dysmorphic disorder. And I get it. It's because their body is distorted from what it used to be. And they have that as the definition. And they're using the term body dysmorphic disorder. And it's driving me crazy. So we're going to clear that up, clarify some terms. Let's get going. And then we'll talk about what do you do if you actually do have body dysmorphic disorder, if you're one or two of those 100 people out there who actually has this disorder. So what is it anyway? What is body dysmorphic disorder? Well, the definition of dysmorphia is a deformity or abnormality in the shape or size of a specific part of the body. So a deformity or abnormality. When we think of the changes in a person's body when they lose significant amounts of weight, that can seem like a deformity or abnormality because you have sagging skin, you have disproportioned, weight distribution, but that is not what we're talking about with body dysmorphic disorder. So with body dysmorphic disorder, we're talking about an absolute mental health disorder classified by the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, which is the book that psychiatrists and psychologists use to make diagnoses. What they say is they classify body dysmorphic disorder as a preoccupation with an imagined defect in appearance. So when people lose a significant amount of weight after weight loss surgery, that's not an imagined, what they're saying as defect in appearance. It's not imagined, it's real. There's a huge difference in a pre and post bariatric body. That is not what we're talking about with body dysmorphic disorder. So this imagined defect presents as a physical abnormality in a person's appearance. Body dysmorphic disorder is a debilitating means it can destroy your daily life. A debilitating disorder that is characterized by being overly preoccupied. A person is overly preoccupied with an imagined flaw, or it could be a true minor flaw. So with body dysmorphic disorder, and I have to keep repeating this so that you understand, we are talking about a small issue, a small minor flaw. It may be a mole. It may be a crook in your nose. It may be a small, it could be true, or in a lot of cases, it's an imaginary flaw. The person is obsessed with this, but other people are like, I don't know what you're talking about in your appearance, to the extent that people may spend hours of day obsessively fretting about this flaw that they think is like under a magnifying glass to the world. With post-op bodies, you have a significant change in your body that is visible to almost everybody. People comment it all the time. Oh my God, you've lost so much weight. What have you done? Oh my goodness. What are you doing? You look so great. All those things. There's a clear difference in what your body looked like before surgery and what your body looks like after surgery. Now, you may be struggling. You may have struggled with your body image before surgery, and you may still struggle with your body image after surgery, but that is not body dysmorphic disorder. You're going to get tired of hearing me say that, but I'm going to keep saying it. The American Psychiatric Association says that body dysmorphic disorder is a serious mental health condition with potentially severe consequences. And you know why they say that? With potentially severe consequences? Well, let me tell you. All right, as I've mentioned, this obsessive, doesn't go away. You can't quit thinking about it. No matter if people say, well, just, get over it, get over yourself, quit thinking about it. That's not how it works, because it's just like an attack on your brain, constantly coming back, like a hiccup in the brain. Obsessive, where this person is fixated on this real or imagined slight defect, and it's so slight, like I said, that it may be unnoticeable to other people, but it's such an issue to the person suffering from it that, according to a study exploring the suicide rates associated with body dysmorphic disorder, 45 to 70% of people who have body dysmorphic disorder have reported suffering from suicidal ideation. And 22 to 24% of the people who have body dysmorphic disorder have attempted suicide. So this is a serious disorder that causes tremendous anxiety, tremendous social isolation, tremendous social anxiety, tremendous depression. Now, you can have some of that with body image issues, but not to the extent of the severity that people with true body dysmorphic disorder suffer from this. It is debilitating. Like, a person with body dysmorphic disorder may engage in ritualistic behavior, like a person with OCD, in an attempt to minimize the anxiety and the stress that they're feeling in relation to this obsessive preoccupation with this flaw. So it's not just like you look in the mirror and go, ugh, maybe 2 or 3 times a day. Somebody with body dysmorphic disorder may be spending hours and hours and hours looking in the mirror at this real or imaginary perceived flaw. So this is a serious, serious disorder, very commonly linked with obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a mental health disorder. Body image distortion is not a mental health disorder. It may be related to some things like anxiety and depression, but not to the extent, and it's not considered in and of itself a mental health diagnosis. Body dysmorphic disorder is. It is serious. It is debilitating. It is based on a real or imaginary flaw that, to the person who has it, it is consuming their life, and they can't get away from it no matter what they try. So what causes this really, really horrendous disorder? Well, it can be a combination of biological, so there's probably some biological, there's some psychological, there's environmental factors. Gosh, what does that sound like? Any other disease you might be familiar with? So many diseases, chronic diseases, like the disease of obesity, like the disease of addiction, like body dysmorphic disorder, are chronic. They don't go away. They will not be cured. They can be treated. So body dysmorphic disorder cannot be cured, but it can be treated. The symptoms can be lessened. The severity can be decreased so that a person is able to better function out in the world. So we're talking about a really serious disorder, and it's not for sure how much society has to do with it, how much physiology, how much biology, how much psychology. It's a combination, just like the disease of obesity. How's it diagnosed? Well, you have to see a mental health professional. It says health, some people say see your doctor about it, but I'm telling you, I'm hearing a lot of bariatric surgeons talking about body dysmorphic disorder in the wrong context. And your primary care physician may not be familiar with body dysmorphic disorder any more than the general public. So I would see a specialist who specializes in psychiatric and mental health conditions. So a psychologist or a psychiatrist are the people best able to diagnose body dysmorphic disorder. And what they'll do with you is they'll go over a lot of risk factors, because what you got to do is tease out, is this an anxiety disorder? Is this obsessive compulsive disorder? Is this serious depression? So you got to tease out what's what. But to be diagnosed, formally diagnosed with body dysmorphic disorder, you must be abnormally concerned, not just like, oh, I really don't like my body. Abnormally concerned with that small or non existent perceived flaw. The person may believe this defect is so prominent that other people can't miss it. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of people are completely unaware of it. It's not perceptible to other people, but to the person with the disorder, they think that's all people are looking at or can see about them. And the negative thoughts about this perceived flaw have to be severe enough that they actually interfere with your daily normal living. Not like, oh, this really bothers me, but like, I feel crazy. I feel like I can't function in my job very well because I'm always preoccupied. Some people are preoccupied with food. They have an obsession with food. And it feels like you cannot get away from this mental preoccupation. That's what it's like for people with body dysmorphic disorder, but maybe to an even greater extent, to the degree that it's really causing so much internal conflict, and it's spilling out into relationships, your performance at work, your ability to spend time with friends and loved ones and children. So it's really, really causing difficulties in day-to-day functioning. I mean, we're talking, like I said, it could take up hours of a person's day, or could take up days on end in this absolute, what feels like craziness in your head because you can't get away from it. All right. The sufferers perform compulsive or repetitive behaviors, kind of like a person with OCD may repeatedly wash their hands to try to get rid of this anxiety, or they may engage in other checking behaviors to the point where it's really disruptive in their life. You might check your locks before you go to bed, but somebody with true obsessive compulsive disorder may spend an hour repeatedly checking every lock, or they think they smell gas and so they can't leave an area until they call the gas company, who comes out and goes, no. And they do this in repeatedly different places, and it's really, really debilitating. And like I said, the mental health professional has to rule out other causes of these symptoms, like depression, anxiety, OCD, those kinds of things. Here's an interesting fact that I found, that researchers have discovered that people who have body dysmorphic disorder really suffer from a number of visual processing difficulties. In other words, they really see things differently because they have this visual processing issue that can be very fixed and narrow. So whereas you might go, oh yeah, that person's got a mole on their cheek, this person has like tunnel vision and it's all that they can see. So their visual processing become very narrow, very fixed, and they have a hard time seeing like their whole face or their whole image of themselves, and difficulty with their emotions. They can't recognize that this anxiety is related to this issue. So there's a lot that's unknown about it, but that was an interesting thing to me about this realization of some visual processing difficulties. So people who are suffering from body dysmorphic disorder often have one cosmetic procedure after another. Now, here's the interesting thing, and that's why a lot of times they'll have a psychologist do an evaluation of somebody who's going to have a plastic surgery procedure, because maybe they've had 3 or 4 others to deal with this same issue, and the person may be content for a few days, weeks, or months, and then it's like, it's back, it's back, and it's just as hardcore as it was initially. Now they have to have another procedure, and then another, and then another, and then another, because it never goes away. This flaw just seems so big to them that they repeatedly have one cosmetic procedure after another. And that is not wise, and it's a sign of a serious, serious problem. So they're always looking for a way to correct this imperception that usually only they can perceive, and they're not usually satisfied with the results. And if you know anyone who's ever suffered from true obsessive compulsive disorder, it's another term that it drives me crazy that people use so inaccurately. Maybe someday I'll go into that one, but it's not that relevant in the bariatric world, but it's another one that is used so inaccurately. People who have real obsessive compulsive disorder, the mental illness, cannot get away from these negative, intrusive thoughts. It's like, well, just think about something else for a while. Then you think you'll have them calm down for 5 minutes, and then that thought is back just as hard, just as scary, just as intense to them. And it's really, really debilitating. So, interestingly, whereas body image issues, which we'll talk about a little bit later and how they are similar and dissimilar to body dysmorphic disorder, body image issues affect women more than men, although men do suffer from body image issues. But body dysmorphic disorder affects men and women equally. So it often begins in adolescence, in the teen years, oftentimes between 12 and 13 years of age. So a lot of times if somebody's gone through some negative experiences during childhood, or they've experienced traumatic events or emotional conflict, sometimes this turns into an obsessive compulsive disorder, or it can turn into a body dysmorphic disorder. And sometimes it's a way to kind of attempt to relieve anxiety in other areas. Again, very complicated. It's not completely understood. But here's some signs that are actual warning signs that a person may have body dysmorphic disorder. Obsessive preoccupation with a perceived flaw in appearance that others don't see or view as minor. That is critical. That is critical. We're not talking about the excessive amount of weight you lose and then don't recognize your body. That is not body dysmorphic disorder. A warning sign is having a firm belief that the defect, the perceived defect, whatever it is, makes them ugly or deformed. So they see themselves as deformed by this defect that other people may not even notice. Believe that other people are mocking their appearance. So they may go to a social gathering and think, everybody in this room is talking about my mole. I know that's all they see on me because that's all they see, and that's what their perception is and obsession is about. Their obsession about skin imperfections, maybe it's a body odor that other people, again, maybe don't even notice. They engage in behaviors aimed at fixing or hiding the perceived flaw that is difficult to resist or control, such as frequently combing their hair over a bald spot that may not even be a big deal, picking their skin, trying to cover something, looking in the mirror several times an hour, uh, attempting to hide the perceived flaw with styling, makeup, or clothes. Seeing many mental health professionals, they see one after another, after another, after another, looking and searching for somebody to help them, but you can't help them because it won't go away. You can help them manage the anxiety around it. You can help them but it will not go away. You have to teach them to live with it in a way that's not going to affect their life constantly. Constantly comparing their appearance with others, social isolation or having a social phobia, mental illness, including major depression or related disorders, seeking constant reassurance about appearance, being a perfectionist, seeking plastic surgery, but being dissatisfied with the results. So, those are some warning signs of BDD. So, let's talk about this negative body image or distorted body image. So, distorted body image is not seeing your body the way other people do, but not to the extent of body dysmorphic disorder. All right, both these issues, um, body dysmorphia and negative body image, are kind of prevalent because our society is so focused on appearance. Our society makes it difficult not to think, am I imperfect? I don't live up to blah, blah, blah. And as you will hear in the next episode of Berry Aftercare, the podcast, when I talk about body image issues, is that while 90 some percent of people have body image issues, only 5% of bodies are naturally what we are all kind of looking for, what society and social media depict as what we should all have. So most of us suffer from body image issues, but only 5% of people are built with that kind of a body. So it's an impossible win, right? We cannot win that battle. Now, a key difference is in the number of people who have body image issues versus body dysmorphic disorder. 90+% of women have body image issues. 1 to 2% of people have true body dysmorphic disorder. So that should give you a clue. Almost everybody suffers from body image issues. Very few people suffer from true body dysmorphic disorder. Chances are great that after surgery, you struggle with a distorted body image because of the vast changes. And so, what you see in your mirror isn't connecting with what you see of yourself in your brain. That's distorted body image. So let's clarify that in our support groups, with our professionals, with our providers, with each other. All right, because that's really important. All right, so again, body dysmorphia is the mental health disorder. Negative body image is about thoughts and feelings and how we treat our bodies. So one is a mental health disorder, one is connected with stinking thinking. Not that stinking thinking isn't part of body dysmorphia, but body dysmorphia is a true mental health issue. Whereas, thinking bad things about yourself and feeling bad about your body are different altogether. So there is dissatisfaction with body in both of these topics for sure. So they are similar in that way. And they are similar in that both issues create a toxic relationship that you have with your body. Both issues absolutely complicate your overall self-esteem, and there can be negative consequences, unhealthy consequences related to both body image distortions, negative body image, and the mental health disorder of body dysmorphic disorder, such as people with both of these things can develop eating disorders, increased overall low self-esteem, social anxiety, depression, substance use disorders. So it's easy to see why there's a lot of confusion because there's a lot of similarities between the two disorders and how they affect people's lives. Huge intersection between these two, leading to confusion. Cultural and society views are a common trigger for both, and we talked about some of that. We have these unattainable beauty standards propagated on billboards, in the stores, on social media, on television, in the movies. Society's expectations of what beauty is and what the cultural influences within a specific culture play a huge role in the development of unhealthy body image and body dysmorphic disorder. So, again, there's good reason for the confusion, but it's important not to get the two confused when it comes to yourself. Be clear about what it is and what it isn't. And we have to be careful not to make the masses think that they're suffering from a serious mental health disorder as opposed to a common sociological, societal phenomenon related to body image. All right, our social groups also. Who are you hanging out with? People who expect themselves to be perfect, people who um, tease you about your body, people who propagate, you know, you could do better. Those kinds of things. Leave those people out of your life. Stick with people who are like, you know what? 95% of us are born with bodies that are never, ever, 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 ever going to live up to the standard that we have placed on a pedestal. It's ridiculous. It's a setup for failure. It's a setup for disappointment in self. So we got to make the decision that that is nothing but BS and we are not going to subscribe to it. So stick with people who are like, you know what, I'm good enough. I'm good enough with my normal body shared by 95% of the people in the world, which is a body with imperfections and bumps and lumps and flaws and rolls and whatevers, dimples and I'm not talking about on your face cheeks. All right, so we gotta be cautious and we have to try to curtail bullying when we see it, whether it's with young people, whether it's in social media. We've got to stand up and say, this is wrong. And we got to quit buying into that BS because we are perpetuating this must have perfect body crap by attempting to do so when it's not a realistic possibility. So, if more of us say, I'm going to put forth the effort that I need to have good health and to be healthy, and accept that my body is never going to be perfect, and make that the societal norm, we got a good thing going. But we all play our part, right? We all play our part. The most significant similarity may be between body dysmorphic disorder and negative body image is the sad truth that erodes your overall self-esteem. It contributes to this toxic body image. So we can do a lot in terms of working on our self-esteem and our body image by not engaging in negative self-talk, by not trying to look like that unrealistic perception that society holds, by saying out loud, that's ridiculous. We are normal human beings with imperfect bodies. We can quit buying into the BS. When it comes to body dysmorphic disorder, though, it will require mental health help. Another common trait between them is this negative self-talk. Both people with body dysmorphic disorder and body image issues struggle with negative self-talk. And both parties can work to improve that and to cut that off and stop comparing and stop complaining and stop saying, I'd be happy when, right? And start to work on acceptance, which is different than trying to come to the reality that this isn't a big deal. That takes a lot more mental health work. So, one main difference between body dysmorphic disorder and body image issues is that distinction of a mental health disorder versus my thoughts and my feelings and how I treat my body. So, again, that's a big, big difference. Another area where these things are different is the internal and external triggers. Now, this is interesting. So, with body dysmorphic disorder, there's a lot of internal. There's some with body image as well, the things we tell ourselves and the negative self talk. But when it comes to body dysmorphia, there is like a component of biology that is oftentimes missing with negative body image. And that's that hiccup in the brain that keeps driving that thought. That reassurance will not help because there's that obsessive compulsive component to it. And relief is only temporary. So there's a little bit of difference, and it's kind of hard to understand unless you've experienced it. It's kind of like people can't understand addiction unless they've experienced it, because otherwise people say, well, just put the drink down, don't pick it up. Don't, just don't put it in your mouth. Some people feel that way about the disease of obesity. Well, just don't put it in your mouth. So, like you are very aware, it's easier to relate to somebody who's been down the road that you've been to than somebody who's not. So, even though we may think, oh, this must be body dysmorphic disorder, unless you've really experienced that debilitating obsession, you really don't know what that is. So, you can go to a professional and they can help you decide, you know, is it this internal? Now, body image issues are largely external, right? We're trying to meet a societal expectation. So we've got peers, we've got society, we've got the movies, we've got social media kind of driving this desire to have this body that only 5% of people are actually born with. So this social external stuff fuels this comparison, fuels these unrealistic beauty standards, and affects our thoughts and our feelings about our own bodies. And that is what's going on with body image issues. All right. Um, a huge factor that makes body dysmorphic disorder different from negative body image is the singular fixation instead of an overall body dissatisfaction. So remember that slightly real or imagined flaw that a person has, that belongs to body dysmorphic disorder. People with body image distortion or body image issues, negative, it's kind of like, ugh, if I could just be 10 pounds lighter, then I would feel better. Or if I could, if I could just thin down my thighs a little bit, then I'd be more proportional. It's not this singular tunnel vision on this particular issue. So it's singular fixation compared to kind of a general dissatisfaction. Excuse me. Okay, so general breakdown. Body dysmorphia and negative body image share a lot of similarities. There's cultural, societal, social groups that influence how you perceive yourself and what you're comparing yourself to. This can create unrealistic and unattainable beliefs about what we should look like. Mental disorder versus my thoughts, my feelings, my dissatisfaction about I don't like my body before or after surgery. Similarities and differences have severe and damaging complications. So either issue can be correlated with eating disorders, social anxiety, some depression. Body dysmorphic disorder has more severe consequences in terms of it's so severe that I can't live like this anymore. And not just because I don't like how I live, because I can't get it out of my head. It won't go away. It disrupts my life to such a degree that I can't live like this anymore. And a big, big difference is in the number of people who suffer from each of these. And I know I've mentioned it, but 90% of people, women especially, but also a lot of men, suffer from body image and body distortion. Body distortion, body image distortion is what I think a lot of people after surgery have, because the reality of the body, 100 pounds lighter, takes a while to catch up to the brain. So there's a distorted body image. And I hope that you can see clearly what that difference is now. All right. So, what if you actually do have body dysmorphic disorder? Like I said, it's a chronic illness. It will never completely go away, but you can learn to live with it so that it's not so debilitating. There are medications, there are treatment formats, there are therapies that professionals can work with you to help you be less disturbed on a daily basis by this disorder and help you decrease the symptom that plague you. So, absolutely go to a mental health care professional, a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And I'll tell you, I worked with a master's level degree, and there are many, many master's level degree professionals who are amazing. The therapist that I had for years had a master's degree. But I'll tell you what I found before I got my PhD is that I would come up against things that I didn't learn about in my master's level training. And sometimes I would call a psychologist and say, I'm really stuck with this because here's what's going on. And they would say, that's because you probably haven't been taught about this, or this. And it would be like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So while I have utmost respect for the vast majority of people who have a master's degree, and I would recommend a master's degree therapist many times over a PhD level therapist, but sometimes there's a specialization in training. And with an issue like body dysmorphic disorder, I would really recommend a psychiatrist or a psychologist with a PhD. It's such a rare condition that many people don't even understand it, even professionals. And I would really not just go to your MD or medical doctor about it, because they're not trained in this. They are not trained in these kinds of things. All right, here's some take home messages. Post op, people. It's so likely that what you are struggling with is a distorted body image, overall images with that fast change. But if you do have body dysmorphic disorder based on the information in this episode, and then I would encourage you to get online and read from credible sources, meaning the American Psychiatric Association, the National Institutes of Health, not Joe Blow off the street, right? Somebody who's truly educated in this kind of thing, and then go seek help from a qualified mental health professional. And I would also say, if you're really struggling with body image issues, because they can be debilitating to an extent also, I would also encourage you to get help with that. And most master's level professionals are definitely qualified to deal with body image issues, because guess what? 90% of us have them. All right, so an invitation. Sign up for Berry Aftercare. It's a complete program. We are connecting with you every single day in a private community. Check out www.berryaftercare.com. And if you know somebody who really seems to be struggling with body dysmorphic disorder, please encourage them to listen to this episode and get some professional help. So remember, we're talking about your health. Your health is your responsibility this day and every day. So do take care of you. In the next episode of Berry Aftercare, the podcast, I'm going to talk about body image issues because, like I said, most people suffer from them. And there are many ways that you can learn to help yourself deal with those body image issues. Thank you for joining me and for spending your time with me. Take care, make it a great one. I'll be with you soon. Bye bye.